Hello there, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Fantasy for the Ages, the show where father and son get together and talk about fantasy, science fiction, and whatever other nerdiness we feel like talking about. Often that is my son and I getting together, but sometimes it's just me. He's got other things he's going to do. He's young, he's having fun, and I'm just here at home. I'm still having fun. And I'm definitely having fun with you here today. Thanks for joining me. I hope you'll enjoy this episode. And then, of course, be sure to like it here on YouTube. Let them know that this is worth their time. And YouTube appreciates that we're getting noticed. Take a look at all the other things we have on our channel here. If this is your first time, I hope you'll subscribe. We've got all kinds of content we've prepared for you, and we're putting more out all the time. Today, I'm here to talk about books. Sort of. I'm actually more talking about authors today. If you saw the title already, you know this is the top 10 science fiction and fantasy authors that I've read since COVID. More about that in just a moment. When we get together to do podcasting, whether it's my son and I, guests and I, or just me, we usually drink something. And we like to tell you what. I've got something kind of unique today. There's not a lot of it. And no, it's not that I was pre gaming. This is just now opened, but I'm drinking some Welsh whiskey. It was a sample that I got. It's actually smells pretty good, not super strong, flavorful. I'll try to sip that as we go through this show. Podcasting, YouTube creating, it's always better with alcohol. All right, what you're going to get in this episode today. This is spoiler free. I'm going to be talking about authors and the works they've done that I've loved, but I'm not digging into plots at all today. So I will certainly be pointing you towards authors that I've enjoyed and you may or may not have heard of. If you haven't heard of them, I definitely encourage you to check them out and look at the books that I've said I've enjoyed, that I've been getting into in the last few years. But again, I will not ruin any of these stories. You are safe with me today. Since COVID, that's part of the title. So that's the restriction I've placed myself under for this conversation of authors that I enjoy. Who are the top 10 SFF authors that I've read since COVID? I'm going to clarify that just a little more for you. This is since COVID shut down the world back in March of 2020. So from that point on, I'm talking about authors in that time range. But I may have known of or even read some of the things of authors that I'm going to include here. The title does not mean I first discovered these authors since COVID. Just means I've definitely been enjoying things they've written since March 2020. And of all those authors that fit that profile, here's my ranking of the top 10 favorites. All right, who have we got? Well, I have audio visuals for us here. Or visual aids, that's maybe what I want to say. Let me get my graphic up on the screen. Push me off to the side. That's not what I want there. Move that out of the way. And here is my first author to share. Robert Jordan. Now, come on, that should be no shock. Other than, I'm starting at the bottom. This is number 10 of my top 10 authors that I've enjoyed since March of 2020. I know, we feature the Wheel of Time on here. Okay, here's the deal. RJ, fantastic writing in the Wheel of Time. But I have spent so much time in the Wheel of Time that it's kind of like just comfortable shoes now. I'm not shocked anymore. I'm not, oh my goodness, this is so incredible. I'm just, I really like this. And I keep coming back to it for rereads. So he's definitely in the top 10, but just number 10. I've got 9 more I'm putting ahead of Robert Jordan here on this top 10 list that I simply have been enjoying more Sorry, Watt fans, I have to say that. A few of you are out there going, "About time, Jim." There is more to the world than the Wheel of Time. I know, another sacrilege. But definitely in my top 10, Robert Jordan. So I got to remember all my visuals here. There are 15 books in the Wheel of Time. He wrote some other things too, but this is really the body of work we're talking about. I have reread all of these since March of 2020, and I've been through some of them a second time. And of course, here on the show, we are almost finished with The Fires of Heaven and our deep dive chapter by chapter. All right, that was number 10. Who's number 9? My friend John Palladino. I have been really promoting his books because I discovered him last year, and his first book ever, The Trials of Ashmount, fantastic. I still can't believe it was his first book. And now he's got a second book out. Now, as I'm recording it, it's about to come out, but I have read a preview version. Uh, when this drops, it's already out because June 1st, 2023, Buzzard's Bowl releases. So that's book 1 and book 2. Here's the illustration. The Trials of Ashmount and Buzzard's Bowl for The Tragedy of Sedaine. Fantastic series. Buzzard's Bowl takes it up to a whole nother level. I have so enjoyed John's writing here. This is just unique, fresh, creative, and breaks into the top 10. And I have read some fantastic authors since 2020. John's number 9, ahead of Robert Jordan for how much I enjoyed these books. All right. Number 8 on my list, Stephen King. Oh my goodness, there's so much Stephen King. And I've been reading this guy since the 80s. He's still writing new books. There are so many books in the Stephen King collection. In fact, I belonged to the Stephen King collection at one point where they sent me a book a month. I had a whole bunch of these. But that was back in the 90s that I was doing that. He's written so much more since then. So this year, I actually have committed to reading the Stephen King novels that I had never caught. I read almost all of his old classic stuff. And that's kind of why I stopped reading as much Stephen King, because it was starting to get a little one note. And it's funny now because as I've picked up where I left off is when he started really shifting his genre styles, the particular angles he was taking on writing. He got very different. The skill of the writing remained exceptional, but he's gone all sorts of directions now. And I'm putting out book blasts and sometimes rapid reviews on these various Stephen King books that I'm reading through. So great stuff. I've got a lot more to go. I'm really looking forward to. But Stephen King, number 8. Number 7 on my list, Nicholas Sansbury Smith. Smith has a whole bunch of things out there that I have enjoyed and am still enjoying. Here's a few of them. The Extinction Cycle, Helldivers. Again, there's more. Look up Nicholas Sansbury Smith. You'll see he's been very prolific. He tends to talk about kind of sci-fi, fantasy, extreme, apocalyptic, dystopian type stories. Bad things happen. People try to survive. That kind of is Nicholas Sansbury Smith in a nutshell. Some great characters, well done, militaristic style, the way he writes. And his books are kind of like, I don't know, crack. I've never done crack, but once you get a taste, you just keep coming back for more. And I haven't got bored with all the stuff I'm reading of Nicholas Sansbury Smith. So that's number 7. Number 6, Mark Lawrence. Mr. Grimdark. Not all of his writing is grimdark, but he definitely, I started out with some hardcore grimdark of his. So he's got, the Broken Empire series, that trilogy. I read that. And then his next one there, the Red Queen's War. Fantastic. Then we get to Road Brothers, some short stories set into the same world as Broken Empire. So basically, on this graphic, half of it I've watched before or read before. The other half are on the TBR. And Red Sister, Gray Sister, the sister ones, those are still, I understand, kind of in the grimdark world, but then you move more towards some sci-fi and that bottom stuff. I'm not even sure what it is really yet. So I'm going to find out eventually. He has a brand new book that's out too. He's still prolifically writing things, and everything Mark Lawrence does apparently is pretty good. So, number 6, I've really enjoyed Mark Lawrence, and he's one I hadn't heard of before March 2020. Number 5, John Gwynn. He is a character, as you can find on his social media. John Gwynn has written The Faithful and the Fallen, an epic 4-book series that I plowed through this year and this past year. Really enjoyed it and caused me to put his other stuff on my TBR as well. There's another series coming up that jumps into the future in the same world. And then there's a whole different series he's got out now. But wow, going through The Faithful and the Fallen was actually tough for me to get into at first, because I tried doing it as an audiobook and there was so much world building and so many characters involved, and I got lost. I had to restart twice. It was worth it though. Great 4-book series, epic fantasy. John Gwynn, huge. So number 5 on my list. Number 4, James S.A. Corey. Okay, that's one name. That's 2 guys. Let's put the right names up then. These are actually Daniel Abraham and Ty Frank, who write together under the pen name James S.A. Corey. And what do they write? The Expanse, the 9-book series, which is now complete, along with a bunch of short stories and novellas. And it was amazing. This is science fiction, really well done science fiction. A little bit of fantasy in there, maybe. Kind of your definitions. Of course, Amazon, you can find on Prime Video now, the Expanse series, which covers some of these books. It hasn't completed the whole series. We're hoping the TV show is just on hiatus and someone will pick it up to finish it eventually. But the written works are done. They're fantastic. Really enjoyed getting into these. Recommended by one of our friends on Discord. And thank you, Stone Dog. Got right into that. Great series. So number 4, James S.A. Corey. Number 3, Mark Tufo. I've got some episodes out related to his works, such as Zombie Fallout series and Lichen Fallout. There are more things out there that he has done, and he's still writing. I have an interview with Mark Tufo also here on the channel, so you can learn about how he got into his stuff, what he's about, what kind of author he sees himself as, why he writes what he writes. But everything Mark Tufo has put out, I have enjoyed thoroughly. I'm still reading through some of his books. I am current with these 2 series that are right up there now. Lichen Fallout is done, unless he decides to find a way to write another Lichen Fallout book. Zombie Fallout, that series is 20 books and going strong. And you're like, 20 books? Okay, none of them are super long, but they're all super good. So try them. If you try like the first chapter of the first book and you don't like it, okay, you can stop. But if you get it, you're going to enjoy the whole series and everything Mark writes, because he's got the same voice, the same tone, the same approach pretty much throughout his books, and they're delightful. So Mark Tufo has made my days much more entertaining, and he ranks number 3. Number 2 on my list, Jim Butcher. Why? Well, Jim Butcher is, of course, the writer of the Dresden Files, which are still coming out. There's 17 books now, along with a number of short stories and novellas. I've loved them all. We're waiting for more. He's still writing this series. Maybe it'll end up like 24 or 25 books in the end. But I also read his Codex Alera recently, a 6-book epic fantasy series that's also fantastic. And then his Cinder Spires series is on my TBR. Book 2 of that came out recently. So there's 2 there. There's more to come. Keep writing, Jim. I am really enjoying his tone, his humor, his approach. His style is not for everybody, but it is for me. He gets me. So, number 2 on my list, Jim Butcher. And then we've come to number 1. Now I know some of you are thinking, Jim, you've left off some major people here. How? What? Who? How can there only be one left with all that I haven't named? Well, honestly, there are a lot of authors I've enjoyed since March of 2020, and I can't put them all in the top 10. So I had to make choices. But number 1 was easy. It really was. I've only read 2 books by this person. But they're 2 of the latest books I've read. Steven Erikson, the writer of Malazan, Book of the Fallen. Wow. His writing has blown me away. I've read a lot of epic fantasy. This stuff is the real deal. This is the best epic fantasy I've read so far. Yes, that's not that is not hyperbole. That is not exaggeration. What I'm experiencing through Malazan Book of the Fallen is the best epic fantasy I've read so far. I don't think that's going to change. I think that's going to just grow in appreciation as I keep going. And maybe as I reread, because I know these are the kind of books I'd get more out of the second time through and probably the third time through. I know some of you already have done that. There are 10 books in the core series, then a number of other spin-off series, even written by people other than Steven Erikson, but still official books. I'm looking forward to finishing these. Again, I've gotten through Gardens of the Moon and Dead House Gates, but there's other things I'm reading too at the same time, partly because of the podcast, partly because I just like a lot of stuff, and these books take a while to get through. They're hefty. But Book 3, Memories of Ice, coming soon. All right, that's my top 10. You're like, Jim, how did you forget this person? How did you leave this person off? Okay, well, let me give the one honorable mention that I definitely have to mention, and that's Brandon Sanderson. I've enjoyed a lot of Brandon Sanderson since March of 2020. The Stormlight Archive. Okay. I had pretty much finished that just before the pandemic, or right about the time it was starting. It fits in the category. But then I also went back and read a bunch of his other older stuff that I hadn't done before. And I mean, like Mistborn Era 2, I finished that. Tress of the Emerald Sea, his secret novels that are coming out now. These are things I'm reading. The thing with Brandon Sanderson is I enjoy it. I like his writing, and I pretty much will buy anything that he puts out there. But I don't get moved to the same degree as I do by these authors that are on my list. It's good fantasy. I'm not going to do a podcast based purely on Brandon Sanderson. There's just not enough to what he puts out there for me to just be, and I know some of you are. Thank you for doing what you do, because that's not me. His style is entertaining, but it's not as deep. It doesn't hit me as hard. Even Stormlight Archive doesn't hit me as hard as other things I read. So we'll say he's number 11. I will give him that, because I keep reading his books. And that's better than what I move on to next, because here's all my real honorable mentions. These are 12 other authors that I have really enjoyed since COVID came along. Anne McCaffrey, rereads and new reads of her stuff. Hugh Howey, Joe Abercrombie, Raymond E. Feist, Terry Brooks, Andy Weir, Max Brooks, Michael J. Sullivan, Brent Weeks, John Scalzi, DJ Molay, Blake Crouch. All of you guys and gal. Worthy. So good. Entertaining. But you can't make the top 10 because I can only pick 10, and I gave you my 10. That's where I'm at. Those are the top 10. I will, for my preference, say I enjoy those 10 more than any of these. But I really enjoy all of these too. No shame there. These have been fantastic, including, I mean, that second from the left at the top, Hugh Howey. That's the Silo trilogy that I just got through. Now I'm watching on Apple TV Plus, and it's so good. Man, I could go on with all of these. I mean, we're talking about, the Night Angel trilogy, First Law, Shannara, Rhaenyra, Dragon Riders of Pern. There's so many good things in this list. So I wanted to put them out there. I wanted to say their names. These are ones worth going and checking out as well. And I thoroughly enjoy each of these authors. All right. That's what I got for you today. Not a very long episode. Gave you my top 10, cheated with number 11, and then threw in all the honorables. These are great authors. I have read other authors since March 2020. They didn't get mentioned. I tend to stay positive. I'm glad of everything I read, but there are some things that I just don't feel the same about. And I'm being very intentional to not mention that one guy that I've bashed in other things. Some of you know who I mean. But there are simply some authors that, okay, came, went, won't go back. Those I won't mention because I'm going to be kind. I'm sticking to the ones I love, and you're looking at 12 more of them right here that go with the 11 that I gave official recognition to. I hope you will check out all of them, enjoy their books. Let me know if you hadn't read some of them before and you get into it now and love it. I definitely want to hear about it. And how can you tell my son Zach and I about your reading adventures? Discord is the best place. We have a Discord server. There's an invite link down in the show notes. We've got a channel on there just for reading now, and everybody is sharing the books they're discovering and then rating it for each other, so we get an idea. Is this something we might want to read as well? So, and that's just one thing we talk about on Discord. So check out our Discord server. Of course, we're on social media. Twitter is where we're most active. We do have Facebook and Instagram and Mastodon as well. But if you really want to interact with us, find us on Twitter. Of course, you can respond here in the show notes to this episode. We always see those and respond. And finally, there's Patreon. We do have the opportunity for you to come and support us on Patreon. Sometimes you'll see on these episodes, people join us in the chat live, interacting with us. That's on our Discord server, some places that are reserved for Patreon supporters. So we really appreciate our patrons. We have a number of them right now who every month are contributing to support Fantasy for the Ages. And thank you, because this costs money. The equipment, the green screen, the microphones, the things so that we can give you the best quality on these shows. That's because Patreon is helping us out. So thank you, Patreon supporters. And if any of you would like to try it too, find us on Patreon and see what you could get. All right, that's it. Let me run our outro here, which will also remind you of these same things I was just talking about. So again, like and subscribe, find us on Discord, all the social medias, and I don't need to say these things again. I can just get out of the way and let them run. My Vanna White skills. I really hope you enjoyed the episode, and add some more things to your TBR. I'm sure it's not long enough. You can always add more books. Good books are forever. Thanks, everyone. We'll talk to you next time.